parents should all consider themselves to be put on notice. This changes parental accountability forever.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it is going to be something looked at seriously by the courts.
What other kind of crimes could parents be responsible for that their kids commit?
A shocking decision in America today. You may have seen the headline and blown right by it. Jennifer and James Crumbley were sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter. They're the parents of Ethan Crumbley. Ethan killed 4 of his classmates in a mass shooting at Oxford High School in Michigan. Ethan's already serving time for the murders, but today, his parents were punished. They weren't at the school when the shooting took place, and they certainly didn't pull the trigger. But they're being held responsible for the violent acts of their child. So, how did we get here? Let's catch you up.
Never think this could not happen to you, and stereotype that bad kids come from bad parents.
A warning to other parents from Jennifer Crumbley.
We weren't perfect, but we loved our son and each other tremendously.
Jennifer and James are headed to prison for at least 10 years over something their son did. But parents of the victims still place blame on the Crumbleys.
Those decisions that you made ultimately took my daughter's life because you decided that you didn't want to parent and listen to your son. You took the right away for me to be a mother. You do not get to decide that. You do not get those privileges.
An involuntary manslaughter conviction for the Crumbleys. The argument, they should have done more to stop their son from carrying out the shooting.
The whole truth has not been told. You know that what my son did, I was not aware of.
And now, legal experts say that this case could become a trend for other convictions across the country, holding parents legally accountable for their kids' actions.
It's not my role, it's not the role of the court system to make an example of the defendants. However, it is a goal of sentencing to act as a deterrent.
Lonnie was a criminal prosecutor for nearly 20 years. Is this a new trend? Are parents going to be held criminally responsible for their kids' crimes?
I think parents should all consider themselves to be put on notice from this case. I think this changes parental accountability forever. It's a whole new standard. So parents now have to worry about being criminally liable for the violent acts of their kids, and they can go to prison for it if they don't stop it. So essentially, they need to be actively on the lookout, assessing the dangerousness of their child. This is a whole new mindset, right?
No doubt.
Most parents don't think of their children as dangerous. Jennifer Crumbley even said, look, I thought as a parent I was supposed to protect my child from other people who are dangerous. But now I never thought I would have to consider my child being the danger and having to protect other people from him. But they didn't in this case, and now they're going to prison for it.
So what exactly did the Crumbleys do wrong in this case?
So there were 2 things that the jury found. One was they were grossly negligent at how they had their guns stored at home, right? You're supposed to keep them away from the children. And apparently in this case, they were accessible to Ethan. And there was evidence that there was a safety gun lock that had been purchased, but never opened, never used. But the other part of this is that they did not do anything when there were red flags everywhere, that he had mental instability, that he had thoughts of violence. Instead, they got him a gun. And then 4 days later, when they went to school and found out that he had made this paper that had all of these violent thoughts talking about blood and death and, you know, drawing dead people, instead of doing something right then, they just let him stay at the school, and just hours later, he ended up shooting up and killing his schoolmates.
I mean, you talk about how this changes parenting, and this is an extreme case, though, that this kid went and shot up his school. But what other kind of crimes could parents be responsible for that their kids commit?
You know, theoretically, this type of legal reasoning could apply to other crimes, burglary, robbery, assault. But to say that parents have to be assessing the danger, it has to be foreseeable, and then they have to have control over to be able to prevent it. Finding strong evidence like there was in this case is hard to do. And in fact, the judge even said in her ruling, she said, this case is not about gun ownership or poor parenting. It's about failing to prevent an attack. And she said it was repeatedly ignoring things that would make a reasonable person feel the hair on the back of her neck stand up. That's the kind of evidence that you're looking for in this kind of case.
Okay, so the prosecutors have never gone this far before in a case. So why did they this time?
One, because the facts are so egregious. I mean, in this case, you had these parents really ignoring these facts and doing nothing about the red flags that their child putting up. But the other thing is that there have been multiple mass shootings at school. And people are looking for a way to hold other people accountable to try and deter this from happening in the future. And so many of these shooters are youthful shooters, and their parents are the first line of assessment, right? And we know that there's a comprehensive study that was done of all mass shootings, school mass shootings from 1999 up to 2018. 80% of the guns that the mass shooters got were either from their home or from the home of a friend. So being able to really look at that and deter parents, put them on notice, and I think all parents should recognize this. If you have guns in your home, make sure they are safe, make sure they're away from your kids. If there are red flags about your child's mental health or violent thoughts, really pay attention and do something about it.
All right, Lonnie, thank you for that. Dr. Phil also has some thoughts on this topic. Let's listen in.
People have wondered, oh my gosh, does this mean I'm now going to be held accountable for what my kid does? I don't know that that's going to be the trend, but I do know if you are blatantly, grossly negligent, there is likely to be some accountability. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it is going to be something looked at seriously by the courts. And I tell you what it does underline, and it underlines the fact that we know a whole lot more about the shooters than we're using right now in America. I'm not talking about gun control. I'm not talking about shootings. I'm talking about the shooters. So is this going to become a trend? Are you going to be responsible for your kids? You are responsible for your kids. The question is, are you going to be held legally accountable? We'll see how that trend goes, but certainly we all want to hold our kids to a high standard.